Okay, everyone who's here today, we have the pleasure of talking with Robby Besner, who is the co-founder and inventor for a lot of the technology at Therasage, and I think, one of the wisest people I know for health and wellness. And I really appreciate having him here with us to talk about the various technology that Therasage offers, as well as getting a really good perspective and doing a deep dive on some particular devices that we have here to show you guys today. Robby, thanks for being with us.
Wow, appreciate that. Great, warm welcome. Love your community and love the opportunity to share some wisdom with everybody and kind of get the feel of what's important to people these days. And, you know, um, presenting is one thing, inventing is another, but tapping into the main source, which I believe is general public, like our bodies are interpreting our environment, right? And so to understand the trials and tribulations that people are going through gives me a great lead into the next kinds of things to develop to answer the challenges that people are experiencing these days. So really enjoying the conversation and the opportunity to share ideas with you all today.
And we're so appreciative about that too, because uh, you know, hearing that you're willing to listen to new technologies, new things that are out, and then connecting them is like one of the most powerful things about change and taking that change into the future. So, one of the things that I really want to, I think there's, if anyone who's listening to the recording, before this, I talked to Robby about, I wanted to dive into three particular things today. And that the first one is going to be the TheraPro product line, which is kind of the large red light mat or the medium mat that allows you to lay on a mat that's easy to put on a massage table or on a couch and get red light into the body, get infrared heat into the body, and as well as PEMF as well, which is a good combinatorial and complementary therapy in that line. The second product that we wanted to talk about was the Jade healing and heating mats. You call it the Jade healing mats.
The
It's
healing pads.
healing pads. Okay. And then the third one, of course, is the bracelets. I think that is it. How would you describe the bracelets?
Well, we call them bio bands,
Bio bands. Okay.
and essentially, sort of a offshoot of a discovery.
Mm,
And so the basic discovery was that there are materials on the planet, Earth materials, that generate wavelengths. And it kind of sounds pretty funny because maybe it's just obvious to most of us. But if the best example I could offer people is a radioactive material like uranium or plutonium or any of the ones that you know about, the reactive ones. If you find them in the wild, it's just a boulder, it's a stone. It doesn't have a title to it, doesn't have a label on it, doesn't plug into a power source of any kind. And you could walk right by it and never even know that it was radioactive. But if you took a device like a Geiger counter or a radioactive censored device and you brought it close to it, just like you see in the movies, it'll start to beep, and then as you got closer to the energy source, it would give off a faster beat or a louder beep. That was somewhat indicative of the amount of energy that's coming off of this pretty um, kind of like plain looking rock. And the concept intrigued me because if we can find it in radioactive materials or stones, can we find it in other earth materials that generate wavelengths that are supportive to biology, our health, plants and animal kingdom? And that was the overarching concept, which led me to many really obscure places on the planet. First, to identify what stones and what earth materials to go after, and then find and curate the ones that are in the best locations in the world. And that's what I've been basically doing for close to 20 years in that category. Once I got off on my theory, then I needed to put it to practice. And we found some very interesting earth materials that we do incorporate into our devices, and that's the preempt or the prelude to the bioban when you're ready to talk about it. Unless you want to address that one first out.
I,
So
you know, I think that's a great place to start from for certain. Um, but let's say, okay, so let's start with the bioban. I think that is a good place to start. So if do you have a bioban right there in front of you?
I wear one.
Okay, perfect. So I don't know if anyone can see when he's holding it up, but the bioban is it's actually like a band that goes around your hand.
I'm going to
Um,
take it off. I'm taking it off right now so people can see it. So it comes onto your body like a bracelet, and the front part is really cosmetic. Like this one has an insignia that is our company insignia. The magic is on the back and in the band. But why don't you? I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brendan. So why don't you continue?
Oh, yeah. So, uh, one of the things I noticed when I was trying them out, I think I was trying them out, I think like 3 or 4 weeks ago, you're showing them off, is that, that's not something that's extremely reactive in a way that is actively invasive to your health, your body, your thinking. It's something passive. And then with addition to that, it does make the general mood a little bit better. It's very smooth on the arm. It's not on the wrist. It's not very disruptive to your usual routines or your passive habits. I know a lot of people don't like wearing watches because it can be disruptive to their natural flow and their energy through that region. And, when we talk about meridians and different key pathways that go through there, the pericardium channels and a lot of different channels go right through those regions, which it makes a lot of sense why you can have stones that are uh, biometrically charged in specific frequencies, releasing energy and patterns that have been some type of resonance or recognition with those meridian lines, which can be very significant. Um, so you talked about kind of the origin of how you thought about the the technology because you said, well, we're going through and we're finding different rocks and materials that resonate at these frequency bandwidths. Um, when you were testing and researching this, was there a quantity or size or method to how you compiled the right size, the right component, or to how you wanted to have them fit on the hand or on the wrist? Tell me a little bit about that design feature.
Well, I kind of started from a telescopic view. So the first is identifying what frequencies I want to try to harness, and then identify what kinds of precious stones, semi-precious stones, earth materials. In many cases, there's crystals involved uh, that will either hold or generate frequencies. Um, and then I go to try to curate them from and farm them from the areas of the world that they're in abundance and have the highest resonance. So that was the concept. The concept is basically that earth materials have frequencies, and if we surround ourselves, a backdrop before that is part of my theory is in our modern world, most of us, probably not the one percenters that are on the call today, and a lot of your community, Brendan, and mine as well. But if we step outside that community, most people don't understand how important it is to actually be integrated in nature, commune with nature, commune with the natural sounds, the natural light frequencies, the natural subtle energies that the earth and the moon and nature has provided us. And why it becomes more important is basically the state of affairs we are in right now. We live in controlled environments, a controlled, let's say now it's summer, so let's say your air conditioned home, to your air conditioned car, to your air conditioned office. Um, Air conditioned, it's conditioned, it's not nature, it's not like with your windows open and our microbiome communing with the macrobiome that's surrounding us, all those organisms, all that stuff that happens in nature that we actually need to have in place in order for us to be vital and healthy the way nature intended us to be. And so we're removed from that. We don't touch the earth anymore because we're wearing rubber soles or shoes that that have a soul to it, so that we walk on and glide on the earth, but we don't necessarily touch it and receive those energies. We're somewhat insulated from that. And so, how do we capture nature, put it into a device or delivery system like a bioband, and bring that part of nature that's so important for our vitality, the subtle energies that are so important to us, back into our lives? It's certainly not going to be supplied by the e-bike companies, or the electric car companies, or the various different companies that make wireless devices. All that technology, that's wonderful and we enjoy it, but it also is very much different and apart from the way kind of nature intended us to be. So I'm not asking for the audience to break down, strip down their clothes, wear fig leaves, and prance through the neighborhood. Uh, so please don't do that, because they'll probably come back to me sometime in the future. But I am saying that these subtle energies are so important. And because they're subtle energies, and to your point, Brendan, it doesn't offer a visceral response. A healing pad, like we'll get to in a few minutes, you put that on your body, it's heated up, you feel the energy, you feel the heat, you feel the relaxation. Something like a bioband, you don't get that. What you get is your body being surrounded by energies that are in nature, that subtly shift us on an energetic level, that subtly shift us and the ways that our cells communicate, the way that our neurological system communicates, which was all wired with us to be immersed in nature. So when we take ourselves out of that environment, we start losing that connection. And then over time, you add enough loose connections, and now we get the disconnections, and we allow our immune systems to be somewhat compromised, and it allows, disease to set in, and let's just say, robbing us from being as healthy as we can be, as vital as we can be. Um, so when I discovered or had the concept of harnessing earth energies, then the next way that my brain thinks is, how can I express that? What are the best delivery systems to actually bring those subtle energies into the body? So this was kind of a fun little um, sort of spoke to my wagon wheel of devices that I make, because it's a fun bracelet, right? But what I've created and what we've done is we've harnessed certain energies, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We created chips on the back of the bracelet. So the front of it is somewhat cosmetic: a silver band, a gold band, a black band, um, a plate, and then different colored bands, all personal choice. Doesn't affect the efficacy of what we're doing. In terms of the efficacy, we've created chips from earth materials, and then we've taken other earth materials like jadestone, like zeolite, like um, tourmaline. Um, there's at least a dozen different stones that we play with. But what I did was I actually figured out a way to grind it into a micro powder, and then I'm actually infusing it into the band, the silicone band itself. So I am creating an energy portal here. And when you wear that on your wrist, your blood is passing through that portal basically every minute and a half, 2 minutes, something like that. So the longer, it's very cumulative. The longer you wear it, the greater the effect, because I'm constantly energetically supporting your blood on a cellular level with with a lot of the natural energies that the body needs, that the cells need, that in order for us to maintain our vitality. Now I took the same concept, the same powder, and I infused it into a thread. I figured out a way to actually bind it to a thread so that you can't wash that material out. And we actually weave that thread into our material products, like the devices that we're about to talk about. So you're not just getting it expressed in this bioband. Robby's mind goes to, how many other ways can I apply the concept of harnessing these micro powders and infusing them into various different materials, formats, and delivery systems to bring these subtle energies to the body.
Thank you so much. That's a great overview, and actually I said perspective and snippet of how you're actually thinking about that. Because it's interesting to think about. Usually, uh, kind of like two things to say. Usually, when you look at technology or device, the thing that shines is the thing that works, right? And so when you look at the band and you turn it over, you see in those circles, you're saying, well, that's all that's being done. That's the healing modality. It's like, no, we're actually putting the powder all throughout it. So the entire band itself. I was actually just about to ask, is the band replaceable or is that? It's like, no, that's actually a key part of that. And that's in thinking about it, now that I think about it, it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. That, you really do need the entire piece of it. And it's good to know too, because that's a great prelude and preset for going into you're talking about the threading for a lot of the other stuff that you're working with is actually embedded with those materials and minerals, right? And theory wise, like for me personally, when I think about it, a lot of plants, like a lot of times when we go outside nowadays, it's a lot of monocultures. Um, it's rare for us to really be in true nature or non-monoculture polyculture systems. So we're not exposed to as many different frequencies in just the plants alone, in the environmental side of that. But also geologically, you know, the plants grow around the rocks and they actually resonate and act as resonators for the frequencies of the rocks that they're embedded with that they can't absorb naturally, and they become the antenna, the broadcasting forks for a lot of these different resonant frequencies, and people don't necessarily pick that up or understand that. And physics based, um, Rebecca was asking, do they come in multiple sizes so that it's not one size fits all, right? So it's is
Well,
uh,
the bands that have the silicone bands are pretty much one size fit many.
mhm.
We also make these bracelets, so the bio bands that come in metal bands, they don't have the benefit of having the earth materials actually infused in the silicone band, but there's many more chips with diversity that are peppered throughout the entire metal band. And those are generally oversized. In fact, many people have to take them to a jeweler just to take a link or two out so that it fits properly on their wrist. So they
So
do.
there
Yeah.
there are multiple different types, and that's something that's not he doesn't really can't really show you there, but because you usually have this massive display, not massive, this nice display. I call it massive because there's like 40 different bracelets or bands, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it's nice. But Rebecca, there are a lot of different options to choose from, and we can get into that a little bit later. But absolutely, if you're interested in purchasing that, there's options to get to it and get the right size that fits you.
Yeah, and
Um,
if you have an oversized situation, let us know and we'll accommodate it. If you're undersized, you can always scale back if it's a, well, if it's a linked metal band, then you just go to a jeweler, take a few links out. On the silicone, you can actually shave part of it if it's obtrusive to have some extra material without it affecting the efficacy.
Fantastic. Okay. Um, and that prelude gets into this idea of that, health is very customized to you. So it's not like you can always make a one size fits all thing. So I'm glad that you have a customizable option that works with that. Um, okay, so with that preload, if you're interested in getting the bio bands, we're gonna have them on the website up sometime the next day. We're also going to be offering them, and they are fantastic. I have my pair coming to me already. I already have them shipping out to me as soon as ASAP, and I'm looking forward to trying them out. He also has the other one is you have the combination of the technology with the EMF protector or resonator, because that's a different band, right? Do you have that available to show?
Well, no, there is EMF protection in these bands as
Oh,
well.
there is.
Yeah.
But there's the one, you know what I'm talking about, the grid-like system that comes in the EMF protection card or the TheraVibe card. You
Okay.
also have bracelets like that, where it has it embedded in.
Yeah,
Which,
there's a series that has carbon fiber, I think you're talking about.
yep.
where there's actually frequencies imprinted into the
Yes.
carbon fiber. And
Yeah,
so,
I want to actually show them that because I thought that that was also another great a great way of looking at the actual technology too, because the way I see it is that here there's a good thing right there. Let me just share my screen. So you actually see that when we're looking at this carbon fiber grid that we're looking at, and I guess it's like similar to how the TheraVibe cards have, the grid light structure, is that you can actually see how it's going to integrate with different various vectors and help actually increase the overall protection as well as the frequency resonant vibe ability for your body to actually resonate with that. So it's good stuff. It's definitely good stuff.
yeah,
Um,
and they're kind of fun and fashionable. And again, earlier, like I mentioned, it is really like a cumulative type of effect. So you want to keep that on. It doesn't lose superpowers. You can swim with it. I generally have a bracelet on all the time. For most people that are kind of tuned into energetic um, body energetics, the left side of your body is generally the receiving side, and the right side of your body is the releasing side energetically. When you get, if you choose to get a bracelet, just intuitively put it on the hand or the um, actually my wife actually wears one on her ankle, so there's lots of applications like that. But and a few on her hand now that I think about it also. But she does wear one on her ankle. She loves that. Anyway, you can kind of play with the way that it's affecting you, this just intuitively, by deciding what channel or what side of your body to actually wear the bracelet on.
Yeah. And it's funny you say the cumulative effect. I always have to specify with people when something's going to work right away and when something's going to work cumulatively. And I think that because we live in such a results-oriented world where someone who's looking at it, they're like, well, is this going to take me a day? Is this going to take me a week, a month? And it's hard to give definitive answers because even if you do studies and you show, okay, well, this is effective and through a cross section of double blind studies, we show the efficacy of this, it's still not going to show acute changes over time. It's going to be accumulative. It's going to be, hey, this is not exponential, but integral to the actual effectiveness of the actual technology. It's like, okay, fair enough. But, some things it is light switch, right? Like, so getting into the light switch vectors now, let's get, and not to say that the bracelet and the bio band is not as effective. It is very effective. But when technology is involved, I always like to say there are definitely light switch solutions for different issues. One of those is when people don't get enough sun, or when they have inflammation problems, or when they have metabolic issues with RMNRA expression, or when you have various different energetic reasons for not having enough energy or being fatigued. Well, one of those answers, as Robby would probably tell you, is the TheraPro. And I'm going to unblur my video now so that I can actually show off the. Okay. So this is what the TheraPro large looks like, and it's quite large. In fact, it's probably about 5 feet, 6 feet, I would say. It definitely would fill a full bed, but also this is the Jade map as well. And so I'm gonna go with let's start talking about the large map first,
Okay.
Robby. So what came first? Was it the Trilite, the Plex, or was it the TheraPro?
Actually, what came first was the pad you just put down on the floor. It was the first
Oh,
gen.
do we want to cover this then first, if in
Right on.
order?
Yeah, it's fine. It's perfect. Okay.
Okay, all right. So, and it actually does segue into your materials being lined with things that are useful and resonant healing, right? So, because I noticed this is like the jade in this mat is incredibly apparent, right? So it's right there. So tell me about how you came up with the design for it,
Yep.
right? And then if you could segue into some of the ways that you use it personally, if not for others.
Yeah.
And then if anyone has any questions after that, we can dive into those as well. But yeah, tell me how you came up with the design. It's so interesting to look at, and because it's really right there in front of you, what the core modality of what you're getting is.
Well, first off, it's a full spectrum infrared pad. And what you're seeing, those stones are actually natural jade stone. We harvest more than 3.5 million of them a year in our products. Those pads come in various different sizes based on how what we call the therapeutic zone, which is essentially, if you come back to the screen, it's where the jade stones are. Like that is what we call the therapeutic zone. And we use number two commercial jade, the very top level or best commercial jade stone available. As I mentioned earlier about the energetics of stones, the reason why we picked jade was, first off, um, the whole entire Asian bloc, they worship jade. Besides just all the artisans that craft things from jade, they actually want it on their body. They want it, around them. They want it in their field, their energy field. And that intrigued me just because I spent a lot of time in China and in the Asian bloc developing devices. So I kind of like tuned into the things that that culture surrounded themselves with. Why are they so intrigued with this natural jade stone? What are the energetic benefits of jade stone? And then and what I discovered was that and if anybody wants to Google or use AI researching, you'll find that jade has incredible harmonics. Your heart chakra is tied to that. There's emotional releases. And we use the jade to communicate the full spectrum infrared frequencies into the body. And so the energetic of the stone is important by itself, but um, but what we love is the idea of marrying light frequencies with earth energies together and delivering that to the body. The synergy of that combination is really quite stunning. Um, okay, so we locked on the stone we wanted to use, and then in Robby's way, I'm not just happy with purchasing something on Amazon. I actually have to go to the Amazon to find it myself, or in this case, I went to the quarries and I energetically muscle tested, used kinesiology to determine what quadrant of the quarry I actually want to farm my jade from. Because what I discovered was you can look at four corners of a quarry, but only, as we have found out, only one quadrant will actually have the proper energetics to that would marry us to nature. And so that's where I would direct the excavators to pull the stones out. Then we have a very particular form, and you can't really see it in the video, but if you were to touch any of those jade stones on that pad, they are sewed into individual pockets. And so they're not glued in. There's no, it's all organic materials that pad's made from bamboo and other organic materials, but it's sewed into a pocket that allows that stone to move freely as your body is moving across the pad, or you're moving that pad over your body, enveloping it over your body. Then you get the benefit of stones actually conforming to the shape of your body, which just adds to the delivery. The other feature is a little bit more technical, but we use a thermal inline inline controller, and there, with just the heat from your fingers, you can turn on, turn off, increase the heat from basically room temperature or body temperature up to 134 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can extend your treatment time all the way up to 6 hours. So that may not seem significant, but if you have a chronic ailment, if you have back pain, something like that, having the ability to strap a device onto a body part, get the benefits of full spectrum infrared, bring it right to the body, bring it right to the tissue, bring it right and affect your cells, or affect your body on a cell level. It very much improves. You get that visceral response, and you and improves your health almost immediately or instantaneously. Um, this is a class 2 medical device guided by FDA. So we've gone through a lot of the credentialing with third party testing to bring our devices to the market. I see Dr. Bryan's on today, and as a practitioner, his real estate is the license that he spent a lot of money and time to get to be able to help people. And so it's very comforting, I'm sure, for him to know that we have the highest credential on our devices that's available on the planet. So it helps the health provider get behind our products. In fact, our devices are the most highly recommended by the healthcare community in its class. And so we're proud to have and honored to have that relationship to the healthcare community. But mostly, what we want to do is bring these products into your home. We want everyone to be able to take more responsibility for their healthcare and surround themselves with different tools. It doesn't mean replacing Dr. Bryan and the intuitive sense that your health provider might have in giving you guidance. It just gives you the ability to practice self-care in the comfort of your own home, in your schedule, know what tool to pull out of your tool shed that will, or your toolbox that will actually support your own health journey so that we all can live, healthy and live with vitality. So that's kind of like the principles behind it.
Great. And it's one thing to, as a, I would say I'm a very uh, hands-on scientist. So it's one thing to say, we don't glue it, we actually pocket it, right, into the actual pad itself. I never noticed that detail when using it, but intuitively, my mind goes, well, of course, the kinetic energy, thermal energy is just kinetic energy stored. So if you have it glued, it's going to resonate with the gloop instead of its freestanding resonance, right?
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. If you want to, if the whole medicinal factor of it is the resonance of the heat. So essentially you're heating up something, and that heat, just to make sure why it's very different from other heating pads, is like when you're heating it up, it's releasing that heat at its modulus of whatever thermal exchange it's using, right? And if the belief is that Jade's thermal modulus is very beneficial, then that's what you want to use, right? And so I find it fascinating that it is this. Now I always preference this with actual results. I was I've worked on someone with Robby, in the room. I think I spent an hour and a half, and I finally got them out of pain, and I was using the Avasia, and they were out of pain, and they were functional. They were walking around. They were feeling fantastic. And then the second they went back to which I would call a normal habit, which they sat down a very particular way, which isn't the best, their back went into a spasm. And Robby came over and he's like, "Hey, don't worry about it." And I was sitting there, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to go work on him again for another hour." He's like, "No, no, 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 no. You just need to let the body know that it's safe and absorb the energy." And he put the jade healing pad on him for, it must have been 5 minutes. It was not a long time. It was like a minute or 2 minutes, and the pain went away and the spasming went away. And I thought, it's one thing to see anecdotal. It's one thing to see, hear that, okay, it can definitely help. It's another thing to see, hey, I just spent, what I think is an in-depth expert approach to releasing the pain, the problems in your core into it, and then see it just get washed away by, simple action. And then was a saving grace, right? Um, and so all he did was just sat on it. I mean, he was it just right in the lower lumbar region, and then it heated up. And so this to me serves a perfect point in your toolkit for people who have spastic or overexerted or in spasm muscles. Uh, One of the reasons for that is, sometimes if you have decompression issues, especially where the body is uh, overly compromising itself. Some muscles go into spasm to compensate for those things, and they don't know when to stop going into spasm, right? And even when it's safe and everything's handled, they're finally being supported, they still might create, I would say, pain traumas, right, or triggers or tremors, right? And this is so perfect for those pain tremors because it soothes the body and lets the body know that it's safe while also giving it a little bit of energy. Does that sound just about right? An explanation of
Yeah,
therapeutic?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very serendipitous, that particular sequence that you just talked about, because we were there together, right?
Yeah.
And I totally appreciated the professional approach you took in methodically, releasing all the triggers and going down his body and getting him all set up. And then I was watching him, and just to your point, he made a sudden movement because he was actually out of pain, which actually created another event for him, another little acute event. And um, and I thought, well, let's just add another intervention and just see how well his body receives it. And truly, and to your point, well, it takes about 5 to 8 minutes for the average size adult to get infrared frequencies in their body to start that event to occur. So it was about 5 minutes, and we both watched him. He was making the same movements, moving in and out, rocking forward in his chair in the position he was sitting in, grabbing a drink and grabbing just natural movements, which 8 minutes earlier, when he was in spasm and in pain, you could see that in his face. He was verbally complaining and breathing heavy and just having all these responses that were appropriate for the pain that he was in. And then all of a sudden that started to go away, and he started smiling, and then he started doing the same movements, and there wasn't any response to it. They were natural movements. And it was at a point where, if you remember, I said to him, do you realize that you're actually, like, in the last 4 or 5 minutes, you've been going through your same range of motions, but you're actually not experiencing any pain whatsoever? He didn't really have a clue. He didn't really understand that he was fine, because his brain already had him fine, but his body didn't. And so we needed to kind of relax the muscles, relax the spasms. And part of what that pad does is it creates a technical term called vasodilation. The warmth will come in and actually expand veins and arteries, increasing oxygenation and blood flow, particularly to the area that has pain. So you don't have to think about it. You turn the pad on, find a comfortable temperature, and put it right in the area that you're looking to give some support. We call it love, Theralove. Uh, but the concept is mostly that you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a health provider. We all have little doctors inside of us. We just have to sort of pay attention to the signs, the signals, the symptoms, the language that our body's giving us, for that support that it needs.
Yeah, and it's one thing, when we talk about vasodilation as a blanket goal where our goal is to increase circulation in the local region, to increase the resource delivery mechanisms, and to increase how the body delivers and takes away things. It often gets covered up like, oh, I could go jogging, I can go running. It's like, no, oftentimes our body is structuring or posturing itself in defensive systems because it wants to protect, right? And so, and sometimes it's not possible for you to just go on a light jog or to go on a walk, right? You're in spasm, or you're in excruciating, almost looping pain at times, right? And a lot of times that's the lower motor neurons firing in specific conjunction to inhibit any action, right? Which there's not always a solution for. And even further from that, there's not it's not an easy solution because you're still enduring the pain, right? And so what I do notice is in the center, when we have people who we get out of pain on the acute side, and there's chronic pain that's almost resonant and it's baked into how they deal with the pain.
Yeah.
As soon as we put the mat on them, and it's usually I think it's within 3 to 4 minutes, but
Yeah.
you're saying five. It takes about a minute or two, and then the pain goes away.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I call it the blanket effect. Is it's like when you're in a bed and you put a like if you're a kid and you put a blanket over them, they start to calm down. And it's because the heat and warmth that the body's resonant back and forth from starts to calm down those nerves. Well, this does it really well. It really does act as like a warm blanket you're putting over your body. Now you can have it really warm. It depends on your tolerance of it is, but I usually we just keep it at, I think we turn it on and we just turn it up just a little bit. I can't
Yeah.
say, what does it go up to? I don't. I usually I just turn it on and plug it on and turn it on.
Yeah.
I don't. Temp four, I guess, is what we
Yeah,
keep it at.
it defaults to number three when you turn it on, which is about 105 to 107 degrees Fahrenheit. Um, and I think that the higher temperatures become a little bit more important if you're looking at organ cleansing uh, and deeper, more chronic work.
Okay, yeah. We really only use it at temp four or three,
Yeah,
but that's interesting. So tell me about that modality or that methodology behind the organ cleansing and the
yeah.
approach to that.
Okay, so it's sort of the same concept of relaxing the body and taking muscles out of spasm. We have, especially if you're a little older person, we've been overworking our organs over the years, like filtering organs, liver, pancreas, kidneys, and so forth. Um, and if you're not doing cleansing regularly, maybe once or twice a year, these organs are basically become less efficient in their anatomical job, what they're supposed to be doing. And so, what are the ways that we can kind of a tonic that can support the health of an organ in your daily routine? And so, most people experience like a structural change of sort, like a shoulder issue, a joint issue, a muscle issue. But they don't, very rarely do I hear in clinic people talking about that their kidneys hurt or their lungs hurt or that their pancreas hurts. Hardly ever that their liver hurts. Um, but yet, you could just only imagine if the major filtering organs of your body, and in today's toxic world, there, if you don't take care of them, that over time those parts start to wear out or become less efficient. We have no problem in America when the computer on the screen of your car says time for a tune up to take it in and get an oil change. We have no challenges with that at all. But how about the body? Like, where is the meter on us that says it's time for an oil change, overhaul, a tune up? And so I love the idea of actually doing this incrementally. And so with these kinds of devices, with that healing pad that you're holding, you may have a very specific challenge that you want to work with, like your shoulder. But then you've got this device that can do so many other things for you. Why not utilize those? So we have a unique heart rate variability program that we developed that allows us to analyze the way that your nervous system is self-regulating around the devices that we make. And so we do this on purpose. We want to be able to shift your neurological system from a fight and flight, that sympathetic dominance, which we all seem to be stuck in these days, to a more calm state. Because if I can get your mind and your body and your muscles, your structural and muscular system in a more calm state, whatever other intervention that we do, like Avasia, like even supplementation, whatever that extra or additional intervention, the body is going to receive it, absorb it in a much more wholesome, potentiating, much more receiving mode. And so that's like the overarching goals here that people don't realize. If you're more relaxed, whatever you're going to do, emotional healing, physical healing, whatever that is, your body's going to receive it. It's going to stay with you longer, and just a much more optimal, efficient way to do it. So this pad will do that. It's part of the nature of this technology, is to actually shift your autonomic nervous system into a much more receiving and wholesome manner. Um, and then we do capture full spectrum infrared so that we're actually getting near, mid, and far. All those different wavelengths do different things, um, but they will improve circulation, natural production of collagen, natural production of nitric oxide, which creates expansion of veins and arteries, improving circulation. It also increases the health of the lining, internal lining of your vessels. Those are called your endothelial cells. And so we can support that. And we also trigger the blood to grab more oxygen. One of the major reasons why we age is because of oxidative stress, our blood's ability to actually hold on to oxygen. And so these special frequencies, again, extraction of sunlight, they will actually allow your blood to grab more oxygen when you make it available. And that's where we stack ozone and the molecular hydrogen. We do all these different adjunct stacks or hacks to work synergistically with what we know the body will do when we respond to these kinds of wavelengths.
That's beautiful. Yeah. In fact, an interesting thing too, because I don't know if I told you this. I, I had a one of the premier cardiologists in my office before, and they did ultrasound testing of the arterial vessels, and we had pictures of before and after because I had about 35 people get tested that day. I was there in the morning. I said, test me first. They tested me, and then I spent the next 2 hours, 3 hours working on myself, doing various things. And by the end of it, the arterial lining was healthier. He said the fascia was less chaotic, more organized, and then down into the other layer, the arterial lining was thinner and more specialized to actually allow for flow. And there's not a lot of modalities that increase the health overall of the vessels and those various things. So this is a fantastic thing, and I always love when you can like tie it in to actually like, hey, I tested this, it works. Here's the actual microscope, appreciation. I'll probably send it out with the recording of the pictures because it was such a cool thing to take a picture of it and have a side by side view of like that's before, that's after. That's very clear, right?
Yeah. The other thing that you're probably aware of and have seen it, because I definitely have seen this in dark field spectroscopy, where we can do live blood analysis. And so um, most of us aren't grounded because we just don't touch the earth anymore. And that's a big piece that I know that you teach and preach and talk about. Um, but how that affects us on a cellular level, the cells have a breathing or a semi-permeable membrane around them, each of our cells that make up trillions in our body. And because we don't have that ground and that proper energetic exchange, these cells have a tendency to attract to one another. It's called clumping. So imagine you've got like one cell here, and then there's another cell on top and around and all around it like that, right? And so that cell in the middle can't breathe. It can't, there's no free exchange. There's no healthy methylation. That cell has no ability to get information that's DNA and RNA, exchanged in. There's no cell communication to another cell because it becomes stagnated, and it doesn't give the cell an opportunity to get waste products out. When you introduce infrared, when you introduce a Vazia related microcurrent, it's actually energetically infusing electrons, balancing the cell energy, and allowing these cells to pull apart. So now, if you looked at that under a live blood analysis, high powered microscope, in the beginning, you'd see all these cells clumped together. And then after the intervention, and I'm talking about minutes after the intervention, this isn't years of therapy, 6 months of taking some kind of supplement to kind of see how it finally takes effect. Within minutes, you can see these cells start to break apart, these blood cells break apart, and now they're free floating. And you see these beautiful cell formations just free floating in your interstitial fluid. It's a beautiful thing to see because I believe that we get healthy on a cell level and we get sick on a cell level. So anything we can do to support cell health is going to be a long-term play for your overall health and vitality.
Absolutely. And that actually harkens that the whole bit about mRNA or RNA um, expression. That also starts back with, this is, the bioband when you have resonant frequencies going in, that actually does impact different gene expression because it gives the variable frequency in the external environment an indicator for the internal environment of the cellular structure to express itself, right? So it's nice to see how we can connect all of the different vectors for this technology and the origin to a foundational level of how our body works and know that, yeah, this is having an impact on your body and it is significantly effective to execute on those levels where you might not be the healthiest on a cellular level, but this is a great tool to actually input into your body and place on, and there's not an adverse effect to it, right? There's no high risk to the Jade Healing Pads therapy. Uh, there's no, if it gets too hot, I guess you could take it off, but that would be the one advent aside. But even having it on, because it is located and separated in the way it is, you have very little chance of burning yourself. It's not like the jade's directly on the skin. There's a little bit of separation, like I would say a millimeter of separation from with the threads that kind of protects you and allows that to air out so that you don't have a risk of burning yourself. And I mean, it's fairly safe. I can't imagine there'd be a way to hurt yourself with this, which can happen with other heating pads too, because depending on the coiling.
We do caution people that have neuropathy, if they don't have lost some sense of hot and cold.
Mm,
Some neuropathy is hypersensitive, so
yep.
they're. But the other way, when they're sort of numb, we do suggest that they just start off at a moderate temperature. Uh, we do suggest with the Jade pad, the one you're holding, the first generation healing pad, that you do put material. You wear like a soft cotton shirt, nothing, just some material
So,
between the
so you
actual.
think there should be some material on? You shouldn't just wear
Yeah,
it.
we go there, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because what we experienced with people that are very fair skinned, because it improves blood flow. When you put, if you're very fair skinned, very light skinned, and you put that directly on your skin, you're going to, the vessels that are going to expand first are going to be the capillaries just under your skin surface, right? And when they start to expand, you get more blood flow. You'll get a redness in and around the areas where they touch. When you put something in between, you won't get that. Now, if
Okay.
you're darker skin like me, you won't even see it at all. But we have had experiences with some customers over the years, I'm talking about 25 years, that would call up and say, "Oh, I've got these little blotches." Well, did you put like we recommend?
Right
Or
under the skin. Yeah. Okay.
and they go away, but still at the moment you're thinking, oh, like
Well,
what did I?
that's great to know, right? And that's also actually more convenient to say, especially if you're a therapist using this on multiple people, that you should have clothes in between.
Yeah,
You could put the sheet over them and then put the pad on the
exactly.
area. That would be it's almost more convenient.
What's important to know is you're not, these frequencies go through your clothing. Most
Okay.
people think it's got to be right on their skin to get the maximum result, but it's not the case with infrared. Now there are silicone and latex are two filters for infrared wavelengths. And so if you're wearing like stretchy gym type clothing, stuff like that, there may not be as deep, or you may have to have the pad on for a little bit longer to get the same therapeutic effect. Okay, but it won't block like the frequencies from coming into the body.
Okay. That's great to know. Anyone have any questions regarding the Jade Healing Pad before we move on to the TheraPro?
Notice what Brennan's doing. He's got it and it's wrapped around. There are other pads on the market, and they're very stiff. They're very stoic, which is generally a cultural thing, like where the pads are made. It's there that those communities love it that way. We took the approach that we wanted to develop a delivery system that basically molds the shape of your body. So if you've got a hip challenge, you can actually kind of fold the pad right over your hip and get the most exposure of this kind of technology to the areas where you need it.
Yeah, I was. It's funny because my neck was kind of sore because I was sitting and talking so much in the position. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just wrap it around, and it does. I mean, it actually feels kind of looser already just by holding it like that. So it's nice to know when stuff works, it works, and you can depend on it for that reason. So perfect. Okay, so this is. Let me reorient the camera. So this is the TheraPro Large. And I also have the TheraComfort, and I know we want to keep this. I guess we're gonna spend the next 30 minutes on this, and then, right? So just giving us a timeline for keeping us under the. I know we were at the hour, I think, but if we could spend 15 minutes, is that okay, Robbie?
We're totally good.
Okay. So there's two things I want to show everyone in combination because I think they actually do go well. The first one is the TheraComfort eye pillow. So in practice, whenever I put someone on a mat like this, I don't necessarily want them to be active on their phone, constantly doing stuff, mentally in another place. I want them focused on their body. And so before I show you this, I want to show you this because if I go on here, I'm going to want to use this. And this is the TheraComfort eye pillow. You put it on your face to block the light and it's actually really smooth. There's like almost like is it sand or tell me about this the material inside here. You gotta,
There's actually actual crystals in there, and again, back to earth elements. There's jade stone, there's chips of amethyst, shungite. Um, um, we just tourmaline is another stone that we're really keen on, and so we put those chips in there. And what's very unique about that is we've actually created there's a silver lining that's sewn into the material that acts essentially like a Faraday cage, preventing electromagnetic fields from getting through, and that keeps the integrity of brain waves in place that are somewhat affected by those different exogenous frequencies. And I guess the last part is the weight itself. When you put that on your eyes, it will clear out your sinuses. And of course, the main idea is to block the light so that you can get a deeper sleep. Most of us don't understand that there's a little gland inside the middle of your brain that's called the pineal gland, about the size of a walnut, and it controls your anti-anxiety, like your relaxation hormone called melatonin, and also another hormone called serotonin, which is your energetic hormone. And so essentially, when we go to bed at night, when the sun sets, the brain is identifying, the optic nerve is identifying a change of the light frequencies that are occurring. And when the sun sets and it gets dark, now imagine we're not living in our home where we can turn a light on, but we're living on the land, maybe in a tent or in a cave like our ancestors did. Sunset, the bioclock comes in, the pineal gland starts to make this melatonin. It sets us up to shift us into theta and delta so we can get reparative, restorative type sleep. Now, in the modern world, we don't necessarily have that. We have lights from even the smallest little light beacon that's on the bottom of your TV is enough for your optic nerve to sense light in the room. And so what that eye pillow will do is basically protect and preserve the optic nerve, your circadian rhythm, allow you naturally to move from an active state, a conscious state, to a much more relaxed state.
yeah, I sleep better with it on.
Yeah.
The clients we use it and the customers we use it with relax more.
Yeah.
And it puts them in a healing state. And that's one of the core things is like sometimes you can have what I call like body ignorance, where it's escaping the body so that you don't have to deal with the actual problems that your body's facing. And when you go on a full body mat experience, the goal is to experience the body healing. And so I tend to say, hey, the TheraComfort is a great way to make sure that there's no distractions. you know, you have to deal with your body.
Yeah.
And I think, do you know what's the retail price for these? I think it's underneath 50. Is it 33? Okay. Yeah, for $33, it's fantastic. I mean, it's not like huge expense to actually be able to put on your face and very easily change either both your customer or your own experience in sleeping and resting and healing. And they're cleanable. So I don't know if you saw me actually taking it out, but you can just zip out, take the weight out. So the actual materials that he was talking about, the shungonite, the various minerals that are in here, uh, and you can wash this part and put it in the washer. And so if you are a therapist and you're working on 5 or 10 people a day, you can buy 5 or 10 of these and have them available, wash them with your normal sheet rotation, and it's not going to be a difficult ask. And then also your patient's going to be happier for it too. So
Yeah.
now in conjunction while I was showing you this, because it makes this better. This is the core thing, right? So, Robby, this is I don't need to tell you what this is. People, this is the TheraPro large. So it's a, let me see if I can pull the computer even closer. Okay, so um, this is the TheraPro large. You can see that there's the red light. You have, which I think are these nodules. Are these the infrared
Yeah.
receptors?
Yeah. Yes. Which one?
The
The discs or the
yeah,
two?
yeah, the little disc with the black
Yeah,
uh,
that's tourmaline.
tourmaline. Okay, okay. And then there's amethyst. Is that correct?
Yep.
And then it's with shungonite. It looks like, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you're uh, in ordered. So you see the amethyst, shungonite back and forth, and then you have a core of red light. Is there a reason why red light's not throughout the entire in the bottom side of it? Is it that
No, we just follow your if you're lying on your back or your stomach, we're just following the path of the major meridians.
okay? Oh,
With
perfect.
that.
All right, let's see. Oh, make sure I get this on for you. Red light. And so tell me about when you first created this. What was the purpose?
Okay. Um, we the idea is that we're living in a pretty interesting world, and most people are either doing a lot of traveling or they find themselves it, it there were two purposes. We uh, were launching an educational program that we call Thera Optimal Health, and part of the demographic are these very high end, high performing athletes or entertainers, and they're on the go. You know, a baseball player spends half of the season traveling and working in playing games in other cities than his home city, right? So he doesn't necessarily have all of the tools that he might have in his rehab center to support an injury, acute injury or chronic. Um, and we thought it might be kind of cool to put together one device that has 6 different interventions in it. So when they're traveling, basically rather than carrying all these hacks with you, you can have it all in one place. So where the original Jade pad that you're holding has amazing benefits, full spectrum infrared. It's a little bit lower priced. It comes in different sizes so that you can slap one on your wrist or elbow or stuff like that. The TheraPro comes in 2 sizes. The one you have now is the larger one, the size of a treatment table, and the other one would fit comfortably on your
On a,
office chair.
yeah, fixed on the back of the office chair. Yeah, it's easy to move around too.
Exactly. So they all both versions roll up and come in carrying cases. But the key to it is that you've got red light, you have gemstone therapy, all those frequencies. You've got full spectrum infrared. You've got PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic fields, with a very moderate Gauss or power reading to it. And you also have a onboard microcurrent device, which isn't quite as fine-tuned as the Avasia approach in terms of sequencing, but you can dial in 57 different intensities. So the idea that you can mix and match any of these modalities at the same time offers, again, that synergistic body response that certainly helps a pro ball player. But if I can fix a Tom Brady, help support a Mike Jordan, what am I doing to the average guy, the average truck driver, the average guy in their normal lifestyle that has all the aches and pains and all the complaints that most of us feel? Why not create a device that they can, work with their practitioners, work with your team of experts to understand which ones to match up, and then take a little bit more of, as they're getting their therapies in clinic, now they can go home and offer themselves additional self-care.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it really does. It's a lot to look at when you actually look at the fine details of the actual device itself. Because, even as an engineer, when looking at it, my first approach is to say, well, what modality is doing the work? And the first thing I think about is, man, there are a lot of different modalities here because you have, the red light and how the body is going to be laying on here, right in the back, right in the bladder side, the meridian, the bladder meridian, or in the paraspinals, and then you also have, a very grounding, shungite is supposed to be very extremely grounding in how its mechanisms are, in conjunction with amethyst as being a great diffused or diffused heat spectrum. So you have, and it's a heating pad as well. So you have that variance for it. So it it looks like quite a lot of different uh, modalities were combined when you're putting this together, so that someone didn't have to think about a full body general wellness protocol. Right? As we were, I think we were joking before about how many steps it would take to combine a full, what is it, like a full Superman protocol or exponential protocol, right? And my list had 26 different points, and yours was like, hey, let's just put them on the put them on the pad, let's take it one thing at a time. But it definitely is something that you can understand why there's so many different ways to heal when you look at, just the intention that went into this technology. So with that being said, what I would say is, what is your primary use case for this? Is this a technology, especially the large one? Is this something that you see in uh, doctors' offices or practitioners' offices, or is this for at-home use, or both?
It's actually a great question, and we definitely find that practitioners enjoy it because it gets the patient sort of relaxed and more primed. Let's say if it's a chiropractor or a physical adjustment, the body is more relaxed so that it will receive that therapy. Um, so again, depending on the use, ultimately we'd love to see them in every household, um, and for the individual to be using it. But if they get introduced to it in a practice and know that they can find a device that has all those interventions and is affordable, and they get in their home, and we are listed as durable medical equipment, so that if you got an insurance plan, you can also get reimbursed for the pad itself, which makes it even that much more attractive. Uh, the closest competitor to this that doesn't even offer as many interventions or modalities as us costs almost 2 times more. So part of our mantra at Therasage is to offer a lot of value and a lot of education in how to use the devices so that you get the best results. So we love our relationship with First Alternatives, A Better Body, and because you guys are on the same wavelength, it's not just enough to be able to use the device, but understand how it's working, what's the best ways. to use it? When is the proper time to use it? And that brings me to a point. Well, certainly, if you tweak your back and you have a chronic back problem, you have an initial reason to be using it to get yourself out of pain. But what I love, and I think the higher end of treatment, is to actually use interventions when you don't need them necessarily, because the body breaks down incrementally unless you have an accident or sort of an acute injury of sort. Other than that, it's incremental breakdowns. It's these little tweaks here and there. Now, what if we turn that situation and we did incremental healing? And so just worked healing into our consciousness in the way that we guide in meditation, or the foods that we choose with attention, or the stretching that we do in the morning. All of these kinds of ways, and using little devices like this healing pad. I have one. I use it. It's on the back of my research and development in my laboratory. I sit on that pad and I have it on me all day. And I use generally red light. I use the PEMF P9 function, which is a 5 second glimpse at all the other 8 frequencies. So I'm creating a cocktail of these energies that are just constantly reinforcing my health on a cell level. And imagine, you're working 3, 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, 6, 7 hours a day. If you're not needing to move around, if you're many of us, because of COVID, we found ourselves in virtual environments that we're sitting in front of screens, and we're moving less, which actually is a reason why we actually need these kinds of interventions, or these collateral types of therapies around us, just to support normal circulation and normal cell energy and cell health, and so forth.
It it's so fascinating to think like, this generation is going to be the least mobile generation in history, right? Um, and then combine that with, another truth that you just said, which is, you know, healing and health is aggregate. You never get. I like to say the body never lets you get away with a single thing. And so if you neglect your body, um, it's going to create a trend line, and that trend line is either going to be positive or negative, right? And the more of those negative lines that line up, you lose efficacy and efficiency. And so, uh, when customers ask me, where do I use this and why do I use it, right? I say, hey, this is a general wellness technology. You should be proactive in your health, not reactive. So, what does that mean? It means use it every day. And that's a fantastic selling point if you're a therapist to say, hey, come on in. You know, you can have a session on the TheraPro, get your red light in if you're not getting enough sunlight because you haven't gone outside because you're working 9 to 5, right? And and then we'll work on you then. You always have an offering for someone, regardless of the instance,
Yeah.
right? So that's the benefit of having general wellness, is that you're always providing service and value to someone, which I really do think it's such a cool modality to think about. You know, the closest comparison I have, it does come in under half the price for the closest comparison I know of technology wise, and I know of other technologies that are 5 or 6 times as expensive and less effective than the TheraPro is. Um, I have two of these at the center where I have clients come in and they just lay on them. I also have one personally at my house. I actually have the medium size one. I didn't want to bring it because I forget. I always am scared to show things because then they stay here, and I have a routine before bed that I do, and it is comfortable, and you get used to doing it.
Yeah.
I That's why it's funny to think about, like, just like how the Trilight or the triplex, I put that right on my core every time while I'm watching TV, because I know, well, I'm getting inundated with these, you know frequencies and this different light spectrums from the TV. At least I can get some healthy light frequencies in my body as well. So this is a great technology for that, in doing that. Now, to ask one last question before I open it up to the crowd, because I want to make sure we get out of here on a timely matter. um, as far as uh, the therapeutic outcomes, you use this technology yourself. What have you noticed? for your own health when using this technology, as far as your cognitive ability or your um, passive aggregate health outcomes?
Well, I very rarely get sick, so I know that, like I'm traveling. We just came from Las Vegas. Um, there was an event there that we were participating. I'm constantly immersed in um, with people that are bringing various different um, health challenges into my space. Enough that certainly if I had a compromised immune system, I probably couldn't say to you in earnest that I'm kind of pretty healthy guy.
Well, you're a hyper connector. I mean, you talk to more than 10,000 people a year. I mean, we know, I see it. I understand that you're all throughout your immune system is fighting all types of things. So it's always impressive when I hear, because always after a trade show, there's like a 1 in 10 chance I come down and I'm like, oh man, I'm just not feeling it. So that's great. That's great to know that it'll help as a better protocol fight off things.
And then recovery and resilience. I think that's the word that I want to talk about. It just supports your own body's natural resilience.
Hmm.
And so that can be defined in many different ways depending on age and activity level. And so I'm a pretty active guy, but you don't have to be active to enjoy this kind of technology. In fact, it's probably more important for people that aren't as active, because it supports body functions that go through activity, like your lymphatic system is supported through movement. And so sometimes we have people that have chronic challenges and they're not healthy. They don't feel good. It's hard for them to get out of bed. How do we recreate a body physiology, a physiological event in the body that needs movement without movement? And so this kind of technology can do that. And that's, I feel, very significant. Um, I'm not really someone that has ever been in pain, but I'm not really pain centric. So I don't really have a challenge there. But there is a function on the PEMF that will calm your body down and your brain neurological system down. And then there's two functions on the PEMF that will stimulate you. So when I'm getting ready to be really focused, I'm getting ready to be on stage to present. I got a research paper and I'm in the lab and I'm just on the precipice of discovering something. I function on the P3 and the P4 mode, and that gets my brain zero focused. Like I'm just better than any red bull, better than, and which I've never had one, but I've read about it. All the stimulant drinks, over caffeinating, any of that stuff, you don't need to do that. This kind of technology will initiate that within your body by itself. And whenever you can do things that are more natural, recruiting body different systems, it just is a better long-term play. You don't get the burnout, you don't get the adrenal stress, you don't get a lot of what people are experiencing at very young ages these days for some reason. I think it's there's overall environment pressures to succeed in life, um, depending on where you are. It's more prevalent in urban environments, but if you get to rural areas or you get to some of the blue zones, and I've analyzed people that live really beautiful lives, extended lives in the hundreds, cultures that do that. What's their formula? Having fun, eating healthy, being active, and if we can still incorporate more of that in today's world, I think we'd all be better off.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I definitely noticed that a lot of the adrenal failure is a prevalence with not calming down and not having a downtime zone for the body to, um, I would say, go through a cycle of healing and cycle of I would say, cultivation and recreation of the next layer of self, right? And so that's always prevalent in that, you need to take these chances that you have at little rituals to um, give yourself an opportunity to heal, right? And then you've mentioned now, I think 2 or 3 times, doing HRV indexing and variability testing for that. And I think that actually is a great prelude to maybe our next session. I see you're also wearing the Therafrost, so maybe the next session we'll
Okay.
do either maybe in a week or two. Well, depending on the date, we'll do the cold plunge technology that Therasage has with the HRV testing system, and we can show just how integral being able to actually pinpoint the points are into a lot of Robby's work, because you see this mat and you're like, okay, well, it's a mat, they lay on it, so what? When you actually see the data for when they get off of it, and all of a sudden their delta brainwave frequencies are a lot higher, and their body's ready to rest, and they're outside of this beta 2 significant alert and fear mongering response, you can understand the value of it, right? Tremendously. And so, I mean, that's probably, so maybe we'll show three different things next time. If you're interested, Robby, we'll show the Thera Air, the cold plunge, uh, terrible device. Because if I bring the Therafrost in, I'm gonna have to go in it on video, and I'm just not looking forward to that at all. But
Well, I think you're going to see a big difference once you start to do it because, frankly, it's one of my favorite hacks right now.
really,
Yeah. I don't, I really search hard for technology devices that can recruit your body to do heavy lifting, to really do all the work it's designed to do in shorter periods of time. So the idea that you can immerse in water temperatures, 40 degrees, somewhere around there, for 3 to 5 minutes to create a change, a real change in your body that's sustainable is remarkable to me. Same thing for sauna. You can be in sauna for a half hour. The studies on the recovery and the percentages of lowering all causes of morbidity. I mean, it's remarkable. Like 3 times a week for a half hour could improve your lower cardiac challenges by 80%. I mean, just like, and if you go from 3 times a week to 5 times a week, a half hour, um, the numbers even accelerate even more. So I
and
just love the idea of contrast therapy, interventions we can do that marry our busy lifestyles. Half hour, 45 minutes a day can make a huge, huge difference in overall health and vitality.
perfect. And that's what we'll have to look forward to in the part three, is me jumping into my boxers.
Yeah, we're,
Um,
we're doing a series here, aren't we?
yeah. Well, I mean, it's got to cover everything, right? Rebecca just asked a question, and she said she just ordered the Trilite and the TheraPro, which is great. Um, she's recovering from an issue, and she was curious um, how uh, the Trilite and the TheraPro in conjunction with the Avasia can help with calming down our sympathetic nervous system. Um,
It's one of the key things that it does. So almost anything you dial in, I do have to let everyone know, be mindful that infrared technology will improve blood flow and it also will create some detoxing. And so you need to drink some water before, hydrate before and after, just to keep flush those toxins that are mobilized out. Um, yeah, it's very clear from our studies, but you're going to experience this yourself once you get the devices. That after 5 to 10 minutes at most, you're just going to see yourself, no matter how anxious you are, you're going to see yourself just sort of start to get into that drifting, really comfortable, relaxed state. Um, like your company, Brendan, we also offer free health coaching service. So you can go on our website, you can make an appointment, talk to one of either myself or one of our coaches to just sort of help you marry your device with whatever your goals are. And it's an open door, it's open window, just make an appointment. We're here to help and educate and try to have you get the most out of from your money, hard-earned money, in both the device to marry it with your goals.
yeah, uh, especially on recorded stream, I would say uh, the technical protocols that we illustrate are, you want to make sure that you're there's no entrapment of the fascial layer in your upper cervicals. So if you have C1 through C3, C5, if there's any stress or tension in those regions, usually it's a hyper reinforcement indicator for PTSD. And then, you can put the trilite or the triplex right. If you have it in conjunction in line with the modular avasia, you put it on relax and you just lay on it. And those frequencies are going to bombard the cervical, the lower cervical area or the upper cervical, but the lower atlas area, and that's actually going to help release a lot of the tension. Now, a lot of times with PTSD specific, um, there's trigger marks that instance in the brain, and so it's not always the case that you can just wipe clear by just putting the pad on there. Sometimes you have to do different points on the face that will instance it. So what you can do is you can lay on the TheraPro medium, put it on the PEMF mode for the calming sensation, maybe be on it for 5 to 10 minutes, take out your Avasia unit, go relax, and go on either stomach one, which is this point right here. So stomach one, two. And a lot of people don't realize this with a lot of entrapped emotions, but for hyper stress or hyper oriented aggressive stress scenarios, their stomach meridian will entrap that primarily. And it's like one of the first things you notice is like you want to cry about it, but you can't, or you're frustrated and you can't recall the feeling to release it, and crank that baby up. Like I'm not saying to where it's painful. It might be annoying, and that is okay if it's annoying, but have it up until you feel the contraction of the muscle in the local region. And never, no, remember, stay on relax for this. You could go to the stomach meridian frequency if you have an Avasia Prosport 3. We're not trying to go into hyperstimulation mode above 100 hertz, unless it's specific resonant frequencies. But anyways, so you have it on there and you'll see your face contract like this, and you'll feel it, and you'll actually feel an entire, like almost pulsing resonance in the entire facial structure. And I've seen amazing results with that. And do it on both sides. I would say 5 to 10 minutes. If you're going to DZ it, DZ zero, go through the complete protocol for that. Both sides, stomach one, two, stomach one, two. Um, and then that also helps with, in conjunction. It's complementary. If you're doing the red light on the back and you're doing the TheraPro and you're laying on it, all of that's integrated into the body. The body's absorbing everything, right? Nothing's being wasted in that circumstance. So it's a very positive interaction because, if you're on the TheraPro, you're slowly heating up. You have that warm blanket embrace type style of healing. Your body feels comfortable. And then you're sitting there getting a release in one of the core vectors for how emotion's stored. It could be a fantastic interaction. And please tell us what happens. I'm interested to see what happens afterwards. And then of course drink water afterwards because your nervous system relies on it as well. So that's a key important thing as well. Anyone else have any questions before we call it for today? Small therapy. Oh, you got the medium one is fine. The TheraPro medium is it's almost, I mean, it's really, it's large. I showed you the large one, but the medium one's still a large mat. I think first I thought it was the larger one when I was getting it because it's in comparison to like the plaques, it's actually a lot larger. But it still is good to have on your body and while you're doing that because it's calming for it. Um, yeah, you can lay on it for sure. Yeah. Um, Okay. Robby, is there anything else you'd like to share before we call it for the day?
Oh, I think I'm pretty good. Hope
Okay,
that.
perfect. All right. Well, I'm so glad for everyone who's joined us for today. I'm so glad that you got a chance to listen to me ramble and to hear the wise words of Robby here, talking about some of the fantastic technology they have over at Therasage. If you're interested in purchasing the technology, being a part of the First Alternatives Network, you get a discount. It was in the link that I sent to you guys. You can purchase it on our website at firstalternativetherapies.com. Additionally, if you want to reach out to us and are interested in further details, the door is always open. Give us a call at 954-789-2097. And we look forward to hosting another one of these where we show off the TheraFrost, the TheraAir, and a couple other technologies that Robby has cooking in the books here. And I appreciate y'all. Robbie, any last words?
Well, Brendan, Dr. Brian, I think raise his hand. Let's see if we get.
Just real quick,
Right.
guys. Sorry. Since this is a collaboration and
Yeah.
Rebecca was asking specifically, the other thing I would ask or add, Rebecca, is possibly to take some curcumin. I mean, in different forms. I mean, you really want to be careful, but the curcumin before and Boswellia or frankincense, they both have been shown to help reduce pain. About 30 minutes before. There's lots of other protocols, et cetera, but those two I have found for myself and the people I work with incredibly helpful with people going through PTSD and pain syndromes.
Yeah.
That's just wanted to add that. Good
And
luck, sister.
that's a fantastic point too. Is like it's not. I always love this. One of the things I always, if this is a secondary note to Robbie's sign off, I would always deposit this is that because the technology does not have any contraindications in conjunction with other things or complementary therapies you're doing, you don't have to be scared about doing other things with it, right? So a lot of drugs that you can take on the market, they have co adjutants, right? So, you can be taking one drug and then, you go to take another one and they have complications that occur through it, which it defeats the purpose of having a total body solution because you can never pharmaceutically find a total body solution that doesn't impact the other drugs around. But technologically, there are options that are complementary that work together in conjunction to have a full body solution and a full body methodology for how you actually approach your life. But I think that's so great that you can also take supplements and take other things into account while using this technology and not fear an adverse reaction or fear an adverse event, which is such a beautiful thing. Okay, so that's the last 2 cents. Thank you, Dr. Ryan, for putting the deposit. And Robbie, so anything last to say?
Oh, we're all good. I can't wait for the next part three. Thank you
Yeah,
for the opportunity and to serve. And if we inspire just one person, change the life of one person, we're more than satiated for the day. So, thank
that's.
you for the opportunity.
I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you for being here. All right, everyone who's watching the recording, you can have a nice day. We're gonna